Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome, and welcome back to part 2 of my series all about the 2027 paradigm shift that we are stepping into. And today I am diving into what this shift means for women like us. If you haven't listened to the first one, I highly recommend going back because it kind of sets the stage of what exactly I'm talking about, this shift, what we're leaving, the cross of planning and what we're stepping into, the right and goal cross of the sleeping phoenix, just what all of that means. But today I want to talk about what it means for women. So I want you to feel like you are not just collateral damage of this shift. Like we are participants in this transformation, in the mutation, right? And we are being asked to lead differently before it's socially rewarded. Right? We are here to lead the call. So what we're leaving behind, there's this archetype that's dissolving because of this shift, because of us stepping into this new incarnation cross. And it's the archetype of the high functioning, emotionally contained woman. This is the woman who is productive even when she's exhausted. This is the woman who is emotionally, she keeps it together at all costs, even at the cost of her own sanity or authenticity or emotional mental health. This is the woman who is able to disconnect from desire to just so she can be reliable. This is the woman who is really skilled at overriding her sacral and emotional signals. This is the good girl achiever, right? That achiever, good girl achiever archetype who gets her worth through productivity or output. She is really good at the whole like over responsibility thing. She is the emotional regulator for everyone, and her body, she uses her body as a machine. And it really goes back to what we were talking about in the last episode about just being part of like a cog in the wheel of the machine. That's how the woman, this archetype, the high functioning woman, this is how she's lived her life. And this is the archetype really that thrived in the cross of planning, but this is the archetype that burns out in this next era of the sleeping phoenix. This burnout really is this initiation in this next era, because burnout is going to be your system rejecting a frequency that doesn't match who you're becoming. It's going to be the signal for you. And the burnout, when I say burnout, it's such a collective vague term because it can mean so many different things. When I say burnout, it might be full on like my body, my adrenals are like physically burned out, but it could also be like some of the things I talked about yesterday where maybe you're feeling unmotivated, or you're like, I love the work I do, but I'm unmotivated to do anything, right? It might be kind of this feelings of apathy for whatever reason. It might be a kind of this low exhaustion, this anxiety. It might feel this like confusion, disconnected feeling. It could be all of those things too. I would lump all of that in together. Like that is the energy of this initiation. So what you're being asked to give up, women like you that I'm talking to, what you're being asked to give up, this kind of outdated way of being. I'm going to give you a list, actually. I'm going to give you a handful of these. So first, giving up emotional suppression as maturity. Oh, I'm so mature. I can suppress and hold my emotions in and not show them at all. No. The old paradigm says that calm, if you're calm, then you're competent, right? I can wrap my emotions up. I'm calm, so that means I'm competent. It looks like emotional control. This is true leadership. Emotional control is true leadership. And it also looks like I perform now and I can feel later. It's all about emotional suppression and holding it in and just being this kind of zipped up, tied up, don't show too much, right? No, it doesn't work anymore. The new paradigm is about emotional awareness as emotional intelligence. I am aware of my emotions. That makes me emotionally intelligent, right? It looks like using your feelings as data rather than seeing it as this is totally disrupting my life. No, I can see it as data. We can be curious about our feelings and understanding them rather than just, which is such an inconvenience, right? It looks like regulation is more important than repression. I don't want to repress it. I want to holding back. I can regulate. Yes. Now, the next one, giving up over functioning from your sacral. Now, gate 59, I'm going to talk about the gates here in a second. Gate 59, which is part of the incarnation cross, is in your sacral center. And our sacral is our center for life force energy. It's creativity, it's sexuality, it's like self-expression, that kind of energy. So when we're over functioning from the sacral in the old paradigm, it looks like constant availability, like no sense of boundaries. It looks like doing to maintain connection, constantly doing. I don't know when to turn it off. It looks like exhaustion, And we just normalize it. Like exhaustion is normalized and the burnout is normalized, right? It's like, it's that whole badge of honor thing because, oh, I'm so busy and my schedule's so full and I'm so busy and tired all the time. It's that whole thing. We know, we've probably all said it. And I say that, like mocking, but I'm really mocking me because I've said it before too. So I'm mocking all of us. That's the thing we're going to let go, that exhaustion being normalized. The other thing is giving up desire for the sake of consistency or productivity, or just like being in, for lack of a better word, like being in the matrix. Like I'm giving up my desire just for the sake of I'm in the machine and I'm caught up as a cog in the wheel of the machine. And so I'm giving up desire for the sake of that. Like, no more. Sacral is the center for desire. So now in the new paradigm, our desire is what is directional for us. I am led by my desires. I let that lead the way. My desires lead the way. My sacral truth is honored. My life force energy is honored. My energy is honored and conserved, and not just like the collateral damage of me not knowing how to stop and shoving my desires down, right? Now, the next thing, one other thing I want to talk about, we're no longer giving up intimacy without self. This also comes from gate 59, which is in the sacral. So both of these are sacral, kind of sacral energies, because 2 gates in the incarnation cross come from the sacral. So this is a subtle one here. With the old paradigm, connection was through caretaking. That was how you built connection, and proving loyalty. And we proved loyalty through self-sacrifice. We talked about this yesterday in the system and how it was all the structures, all that was set up. It was about sacrifice. That's how we proved our loyalty. We stayed agreeable to stay safe. Like we just kind of blended in with the crowd. We agreed just to stay safe. That's what was safe, to be part of the tribe. It was all about like tribal safety and just blending in with the tribe. And also it was about denying desire. Who cares what you really want? Are you safe? And are you serving the collective? That was all that was important, really. It doesn't matter what you desire. It doesn't matter what you really want. That wasn't important. And the new paradigm, we're moving out of that, because now rather than connection through caretaking, it's connection through presence. It's all about presence. That gate 59, presence. It's about seeing boundaries as intimacy, because gate 59 is about intimacy. It's intimacy with self and with others. And boundaries are such an important part of that. And so it's understanding presence and intimacy out sacrificing yourself in the process, right? That's how we build intimacy with self, is through boundaries and presence. I want to break down the 4 gates here of what we're shifting into, the 4 gates of the sleeping phoenix and what it looks like. So I want to start with gate 34. Gate 34 is in your sacral, and this is self-sourced life force. So in Gene Key's language, it's the shadow of force, the gift of strength, and the city of majesty. Now, this one is important, and I like to talk about this one because when I was working with a coach a couple years ago, she was Gene Key's coach. She was Gene Key's in her coaching. I had such a hard time grasping this one. And as part of my incarnation cross, like this is an important one for me to understand. And the majesty thing, like I get the force. Force is like you forcing things to happen, right? The majesty thing was such a strange word to me. And a lot of these really are strange words, but when you really think about it, you can kind of grasp it. For me, the majesty. So when and this city is like the highest expression of this Gene Key, of this gate, right? Majesty, if you think majesty, think majestic like a queen. So it's queen energy. That's what majesty is. It's queen. So a queen doesn't ask permission to do stuff. She doesn't question her power. She owns it. She makes the decision. She trusts herself. She owns her power. She owns her authority. That's majesty. So this is about power that comes from within, from aliveness. It's not about effort here. It's about what's coming from within, my aliveness. It's about action that comes from your desire and not obligation. And it's about this stopping, no forcing or pushing yourself through to make things happen, right? So what we're leaving behind, what this gate is asking us to leave behind, this part of the incarnation cross, is hustle as proof of either, your worth, your value, whatever, leaving behind the hustle, the forcing, the pushing. We're leaving behind the overworking to feel worthy. And we're leaving behind the doing for others while you're disconnected from yourself. Or even more so, doing for others because, saying it a different way, disconnecting from yourself in order to do from others. We're leaving that behind. We're staying connected with ourselves. And we're leading with that queen energy, right? I want to bring that forward. We're going to lead with that queen energy because remember the gene keys, strength and majesty, that's what we're aiming for. So we're leading with that queen energy. We're not forcing or pushing ourselves to make things happen. We're going to notice when our body is saying yes or no before our mind does. We're going to create with clarity and less effort. It's the whole like working smarter, not harder thing. Like we're not working harder. We're no longer. A queen doesn't have to effort her way through things. It's effortless to her. It's easy. Queen energy. That's what I want you to think about for this. And we're leading with queen energy. Now, gate 20. We're moving on to gate 20. This is in the throat center. This is about presence as authority. So in the gene keys, the shadow is superficiality. I mentioned this in the last episode. The gift is self-assurance and the city is presence. Now, here is what gene key or gate 20 asks us. It asks us to be present and speak truth in the now. And it's about letting go of superficiality. This has been such a big one for me. And I dove into this one with that same mentor I was talking about. Where am I being superficial? Now, gate 20 knows that everything we need to know exists in the present moment. And it trusts that the highest potential is going to be revealed in divine timing. So this is leadership and truth rooted in now. This is trusting real-time truth. And it's also fluid decision-making, not having to force an outcome. So if we think about the shadow gift and city of this, we're letting go of superficiality, I'm thinking like surface level ways of thinking and being. Rather than having to give a superficial answer for things, can I be present and self-assured, that's the gift, self-assured enough to sit with the timing and know that when the truth presents itself, it's going to present itself to me at the right time, and then I'm going to take the action. So in order to do this, I have to leave behind over planning. Now, this is a big one for me, has been a big one for me, because I have historically been one of those people that has to plan like 28 million steps ahead, and then I'm trying to get to step 28 versus like, well, I have to take 1 through 27 first. So no over planning. There's no need to over plan. There's no need to plan too far ahead. It's now. It's all about presence and in the now. We're going to leave behind needing certainty before moving. We're going to leave behind superficial living and superficial expression. It's about depth and presence now. And how this shows up, I speak when something is true, not when it's polished, not when I have to wait for the right time. When it feels true, I speak it. It's truth in the now. I'm going to pivot faster. It's all about the now. It's all about presence. And I'm going to stop clinging to outdated timelines. I'm going to trust timing versus time. This is a big one. Can I trust timing and let go of time? Time doesn't matter. Time, people say time is an artificial construct, and it is. It's not time, it's timing. And now I can let go of these outdated timelines and these time frames I feel like I have to do everything in. And it's about timing. Can I trust the timing of when the wisdom presents itself, the timing of when God says now is the right time, the timing of this is now the right time for me. It doesn't have to look like anybody else. It's timing. That's what this gate is asking of us in this new paradigm shift. And so these two together, I had these two first because these two together make up a channel. I have this channel defined to me. It's the 3420 channel. It's called the channel of charisma, which I love. It's like, charisma. I love that. The channel of charisma. This particular channel shows up as empowering others through doing what you love. And this goes back to what I was talking about yesterday of when we're taking care of us and when we're are supporting ourselves and we're doing things out of service for us. We empower other people. We're helping. This is what I'm talking about. You empower others through doing what you love. It's a ripple effect. That's what this is showing you. And that's, if you think about charisma is like this magnetic energy. People see it and they're like, ooh, like that's what this channel is about. That's what we're stepping into. Can you empower others by doing what you love rather than muting your desires or shoving them aside? I lead with my desires, and because I'm doing what I love, now I'm empowering others. It also shows up as embodying presence, vitality, self-empowerment, right? It's also about being constantly in motion and absorbed in personally satisfying expressions of your energy. This is from the book. Constantly in motion and absorbed in personally satisfying expressions of your energy. Now, here's the thing. I like this one because, and I didn't say this before, but one thing to leave behind for that gate 20 is, well, I did say it talked about timing versus time. I did talk about that, but it's that pivot faster. The thing about being in motion, a coach of mine said this one time, a mentor of mine said this one time, where I was feeling like I felt this lack of clarity around where I was going. Like I had a general idea, but I just kind of felt this fuzziness around it. And I felt like, okay, maybe I'm just being asked to pause and just wait. Like maybe God's like, okay, maybe, not right now. But my energy didn't feel like I was telling myself that, but my energy wasn't confirming that notion I had in my head. And so she told me, she said, I find, and this is a spiritual mentor of mine, and she's very in tune with all the things. And she said, I find that it's much fewer times that we are being asked to be in a divine pause than we think. Most of the time, it's our minds, it's our little monkey minds, like giving us doubt and like that whole lack of clarity thing, because it's easier to be in motion when you're already in motion versus the stop-start thing. Do you know what I'm saying? So this what I'm saying about this channel of being constantly in motion and in this kind of pursuit of satisfying expressions of your energy. It's being constant in motion rather than I'm going to do something and then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to do something and I'm going to stop. And the reason I'm stopping is because I'm questioning myself. I'm questioning my thoughts. I'm questioning why I'm doing it. I'm questioning what I'm doing. It's all these things that are going on in your mind versus staying connected to your body and just staying in constant motion. Can I create things before it's, perfect, quote unquote, ready, before it's polished? Can I just do it in the now? Can I be present and keep the motion? That's what it's asking of us. It's asking for momentum. And if you remember, I did an episode earlier this year, how we're stepping into the year of the horse. And that's kind of the energy I'm feeling too. It's like, can you get the momentum and keep going, right? It's easier to stay in motion when you're already in motion, right? So that's that channel. I just wanted to call that out. The shadow side, the kind of the challenge of this particular channel, this 3420, is hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire. And you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. A difficulty waiting, right? Waiting for the timing. Remember I said about timing? It's the difficulty waiting. It can be this lack of awareness to stay connected to your inner guidance and let kind of the outside noise take over. It could be following your mind over your desires or your bliss, or kind of getting stuck in the shoulds versus like, I know what my desires are, and not letting your mind get in the way of that. So that can be some of the shadow sides of that. So I want to move on to the last two gates here, 55 and 59 in this incarnation cross. So gate 55, this is about emotional sovereignty. This is in the solar plexus. This is in the emotional center, right? This is kind of the emotional heart of this incarnation cross. So in the Gene Keys, the shadow is victimization and the gift and city are freedom, which I find really interesting. This Gate 55, it's a really huge chapter. If you read the Gene Keys book, I think this is the biggest chapter in the Gene. There's so much to say about this one. The archetype of this one is the abundant spirit. And it's the energy to surrender to creativity and abundance. Think freedom. So the kind of light side of this is the energy for embodying faith in the spirit of abundance. This is the abundance of life. So it's the feeling and that embodying that I feel God, divine source in everything. I feel it everywhere. I feel like it's seeing everything around you as abundance, as an expression of God's abundance, right? So what's coming up in this particular from this one, as we move into this incarnation cross, is emotional freedom. It's feeling deeply without being controlled or manipulated by your feelings. It's a trusting in your emotional waves rather than fearing them. Like I can walk headfirst into these emotional waves. I can ride the emotional wave and not have to be afraid of what's going to happen. And it's this deep connection, like as I mentioned before, to abundance and to God's divine source, whatever resonates with you. It's that deep connection. So what we're leaving behind is we're leaving behind managing other people's emotional states. I'm no longer available for that. I'm letting go of that. I'm leaving behind emotional suppression. I can feel all the things. I don't have to suppress it. I also don't have to perform calm. I don't have to pretend that I'm calm, right? It's feeling it and embodying the emotions. You allow all the things, the grief, the joy, the anger, the longing, like you allow all of it. I don't have to apologize for feeling deeply. And you stop falling into those, like ruminating in those emotional cycles. Like I can ride the emotional wave. I can be safe and feel all the things on the emotional waves, and I can get to the other side and I'm good, right? Emotional intelligence, finding freedom. And freedom, there's such a broad word for that. But when we're not feeling the freedom, looking for emotional freedom, time freedom, location freedom, whatever kind of freedom you're looking for, it is the shadow. It's victimization. I'm a victim of my circumstances rather than seeing the abundance, the freedom in everything, right? That's where we're moving into. The last one here is Gate 59. This is in the sacral, also in the sacral. This is embodied intimacy and truth. So in Gene Keys, the shadow is dishonesty, the gift is intimacy, and the city is transparency. So this is about being honest and vulnerable. Think intimacy, transparency. It's all about being honest and vulnerable. So this is the energy of vulnerability, knowing that being vulnerable is what creates intimacy, right? It breaks down barriers to intimacy, whereas the shadow is this dishonesty, or it might be kind of holding back, right? Or having maybe dishonest agendas in your relationships. And maybe there's like power struggles or codependency or really bad communication. Like that's where lack of intimacy and lack of transparency comes from. So true intimacy is about listening to another, right? It's listening through our body, through our hearts, through our presence. And intimacy, the way I see it, it's intimacy with self and with others. It's both. It goes both ways. But here's the thing. You cannot have intimacy with others without having intimacy with yourself. It starts with you. And that's why I've looked at this for me as this part of my incarnation cross is it started with me. Because you cannot give intimacy to another if you are not intimate with yourself. You cannot have transparency with others if you're not transparent with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, how are you going to be honest with other people? So it starts with you. Again, going back to that radical individuality, looking at you, deeply at you. This is what it is. This is about you. Can you build a more intimate relationship with you? And the intimacy comes with being honest with yourself, and maybe it's honest about what you really want, what you like, what you desire, what you want your life to look like. Intimacy, honesty, transparency, how you're caring for yourself. Are you being true to yourself in that way? Intimacy, it's self-love, it's self-care, how I see myself, how I care for myself, how I love myself. It's through all of that. It's through presence with yourself. It starts there. Then we can bring that intimacy onto other people. The intimacy starts with your own inner transformation. It starts with your own inner transformation. That's it. It's something that you have to find within yourself first to give to another person. And so this is what I feel like is so magical about this incarnation cross we're stepping into it, because it's so much of the deep work within yourself, then to be able to give that to someone else and to give that to the collective. I feel like that's so powerful. And what's emerging from this particular gate is this desire-led intimacy, like I said, with self and with others. So we're leaving behind the self-abandonment in order to maintain connection. We're leaving behind obligation-based relationships. This is depth and presence and intimacy. It's not about out of obligation. And we're leaving behind intimacy that costs your vitality. So always think of, Brene Brown is this expert on intimacy. If you ever want to read more, she has really great books on intimacy. But she says, she has this quote, and I'm just paraphrasing here, basically saying that people have to earn the right to be led into my intimacy. Like, it's not for everyone. So if your intimacy is costing your vitality, it's no longer available for that. Right? You get to choose who gets that piece of you. And that's something, again, going back to the boundary we're talking about, setting up boundaries is important. Now, that being said, that was all of the gates and kind of energies around the gates for this incarnation cross. Now, in the last episode, I kind of talked about why this shift feels destabilizing. So now that you know kind of the depths of this incarnation cross, let's talk about, I want to revisit this about why it feels destabilizing. So first, I'm reiterating what I said yesterday. The identity is unraveling faster than it can reform. So these old roles no longer fit, but we also don't have these new ones stabilized. So there's this panic in the gap. There's this, you're kind of in between versions of yourself, and it can feel really destabilizing and feeling like you have to like rush to find the answer to have the clarity. We're not going to do that. I'm going to talk about more about that in the next episode. Your nervous system was trained for the old paradigm because predictability and structure, that's safety. That feels safe to your nervous system. Predictability and structure equals safety. Like, that's easy. So your nervous system was trained for that. Output and worth, those things go together. Like, this feels safe. This feels normal. This feels comfortable. But this new era we're stepping into is removing these external anchors. So your nervous system says, well, what do I rely on now? Like, who am I if I stop? Who am I if I'm not productive? What do I do if I'm not productive? Like, I need predictability. I need structure. We're letting go of that. It can feel really unsafe though. And then the other thing is, your emotional energy is no longer being suppressed. So we're basically taking the lid off of something. If you think about like an old Tupperware that's been in the back of your fridge forever, and it's like built up all this gas and air, and you take it out and it's like, whoa, this like smell and everything comes out. Like, we're taking the lid off. There's a lot of things that have been pushed under the surface. So for a lot of people, this is going to be very destabilizing and very dysregulating. But for women like us, we're going to be supported in it because we're going to know how to handle it. I'll talk about that in the next one. But this can be collectively, this is a lot. Gate 55 is activating that emotional truth. And so we're no longer going to numb and suppress and hold things back. Suppression is no longer supported. So I feel like this could be the biggest piece because there is a collective suppression of a lot of emotions that's going to be let out of the bag. We, as in women, as in you listening here, because you're listening to this, we are the leaders here. We have to hold space for all of that. That's what we're being asked to do. It's in my opinion anyway. So how do we work with these energies? First, I want to talk about navigating this kind of in-between, right? How do we navigate this void, this kind of in-between space? We don't talk about this much. This space, like how to navigate this space between who you were and who you're becoming. And this is where so many women, a lot of women are living right now, or you're going to be soon. So first, let's normalize it. This is normal, first of all. I just want to point that out first. This space, this void, is this space after an identity dissolves but before a new one stabilizes. So it can feel lonely, it can feel uncomfortable, it can feel disoriented. It often feels like a lack of clarity or lack of motivation. It might feel like feelings of grief, but I don't really know why. Like, there's this lack of clarity. Like, I don't know why I feel like that. This sense of I don't know myself anymore. What am I doing? What is life? It's like this existential crisis, right? This is an existential crisis. The mind struggles here because your mind is designed to reference the past. And in the void, there's basically like no identity to pull from. Like I've already let go of that. So it's like your soul is taking you somewhere where your mind has never been. And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I have no past to reference from. So your mind panics because it tries to rebuild the old self to rush decisions. It tries to reattach to familiar structures, but your soul is like, no, we're leaving that. And your mind's like, no, but wait, like it's like this internal battle between your mind and your soul. That's how I see it. And so we think like we can think our way out of the void, and that's not it at all. Your mind is going to struggle here. I will tell you that. But here's the thing. Actually, let me say this first. I want to point this out of what not to do in the liminal space. You can't force clarity. You can't rush decisions. You can't rush identity decisions either. Like you can't rush to make yourself a certain way. You can't overcommit. Don't numb the discomfort. Don't try to be productive to feel safe. Like you try to go back to those old identities that you're leaving behind. That is not going to serve you. Let the space work on you. Be in this on the discomfort. Be in the in-between. Be in this in-between space. And I want to give you some human design anchors here to help kind of navigate the void. And first, starting with your strategy and your authority. Starting with that, this is your first anchor. And this is the most important compass in the liminal space because your strategy and your authority are for your safety. It's not for speed. It's not how fast can I make a decision. It's for safety, knowing that I can trust my strategy and authority. I know how to make decisions. I'm going to, ride the emotional wave. I'm going to listen to my gut. Like knowing how to use your authority, this is going to be crucial. Let clarity come somatically. Let it come naturally. Wait for the body's signals. Again, we're stepping away from the self-abandonment, from the self-betrayal. Stick with your authority. Know how to make your decisions. Study your human design authority and learn how to use it. It's going to be first and foremost. Gate 20, right? This is an important one. This is all part of the incarnation cross. This is about presence. Can I return to the present moment? Ask yourself, what is true for me right now? Like work with the energy of gate 20. Release the need to have to define your future self. I don't have to know who I'm stepping into. You don't have to know that. You don't have to know it. Practice naming what's alive for me today and let that be enough. Again, you don't have to skip to step 28. Let's go step 1 step at a time. Be present now. What's alive today, let that be enough. Let go of having to plan too many steps ahead. You don't have to know what's next. You just have to know what's now. Stick with the now. Working with the energy of gate 55, this is emotional sovereignty. And your emotional wave is going to increase in this liminal space. And it doesn't mean that you have to be unstable. It's just, it means that emotion is clearing old identity residue. It's like emotion is energy in motion. So this is old energy that just needs to be cleared, right? It's not that you're emotionally unstable. It's emotions are what's clearing away that old identity residue that we're letting go of. So can we feel without attaching meaning to why I'm feeling this way or what I'm feeling? Can I just feel just for the sake of feeling? And remember to let emotion pass before acting. Ride that emotional wave, whether you're an emotional authority or not. Ride the emotional wave, let it pass before taking action, right? Gate 55 teaches us that freedom comes from letting emotions move, not from understanding it. I don't have to understand it. I just need to let it move. That's where the freedom comes from. And then there's the energy of working with gate 34. And this is about trusting life when direction is unclear. Because the fact is, direction isn't going to come first, because the fact is, the energy is going to come before the direction. And there is a trust required, even with a lack of clarity, when you're on a soul mission, right? We know the general direction of where we're headed, but we have to understand that direction isn't always going to come first. And the small, alive impulses are going to matter more than the big plan. So it's just following the one little breadcrumb at a time. Really going back to what I was saying before about not planning too many steps ahead and looking too far ahead. It's following the breadcrumbs. That has stuck with me so long. A mentor of mine told me that so long ago when I was really learning how to work with my human design, and it has stuck with me because it is really so true. And I think we wait for these like big impulses or like these big moments to take action. And yes, sometimes those do come, but really the energy that's coming through for us in this new shift, and really when we're talking about gate 34, it's really those small impulses that come, little breadcrumbs come one at a time. And so the invitation for you here working with this energy is just follow what brings aliveness, fulfillment. That's what we're going. That's what we're leading with. And it's about energy. Let your energy lead, not logic. And this is where it becomes so, so important to be in tune with your body, to be able to listen and discern and interpret these signals, because it's not always going to make logical sense. In fact, I dare say the majority of the time, it's not going to make logical sense. When we let energy lead and when we are following that life force energy, that energy that makes us feel alive, the true desire, that's going to be what's crucial. And that's going to be what leads us to true fulfillment and that richness of life that we're looking for. And that's what is available for us in this not that it's not available now, but when we let this energy lead, that is what's available on the other side. And that's really the energy of the center coming from it's that sacral center energy of leading with the energy and leading with life force. And then last but not least, it's working with gate 59 and the energy of gate 59. And that is that rebuilding intimacy with self that I've already talked about. I think the void, being in the void and getting comfortable in the void, getting comfortable in that liminal kind of in between space, it often strips away external validation. And if we allow it to, if we really are putting intention into rebuilding intimacy with self, we allow it to strip away the external validation so that all that's left is us, is you with yourself. And that's what it's about. It's stripping away the identities and the roles that we've attached to ourselves and that we have allowed to take hold of us and we've created stories around. It's going back to you. It's going back to you and taking away those roles as identities. So the reframe from gate 59, the reframe that it offers us is the intimacy, as I've mentioned before, the intimacy isn't about others right now. The intimacy is about you. It's about coming back to the body. It's coming back in touch with you. It's intimacy with self. That has to lead the way. The intimacy with self has to lead the way. And I feel like as I'm saying this, what's coming through for me is this is the most important part starting out. And this is the most important part leading you to support yourself in this 2027 shift. It's rebuilding intimacy with self. And I think this is one of the biggest pieces that has been stripped away from us from this cross of planning, because there was so much of a focus on the structures and the system and how you as a human are benefiting the collective. It's destroyed any intimacy we had with ourselves, what we truly want, what we truly desire, the signs and the signals that our body is sending, like listening to our body, listening to our intuition, listening to the body physically, mentally, emotionally, like all those parts of us, all of that is intimacy with self. And I think I believe that this is, I don't want to say it's the most important piece because I don't want to make it like one part is more important than the other, but I think at least starting out, this is the piece to lead with. And if we really want to know how to work with the energies that are coming through, to work with this shift, and really like specifically, I'm talking about navigating the void. It all comes back to this. It all comes back to this intimacy with self. This really is the most important piece of navigating the void. Because if you can come back into your body, this is when you become more in tune with your intuition, your creativity, your magnetism, that life force energy. And that is what is leading you forward. It's intimacy with self. It's self-leadership. It's It's self-authority. It's self-sovereignty. All of that. This is what it comes back to. So take intentional practices to help with this specifically now. Maybe it's mindfulness practices that require you going in with you, having conversations with yourself or your intuition, listening to what's coming through for you, like really being intentional about the space here of connecting with yourself. And even like putting your hands on your body, whether it's a hand on your heart or your belly, when you're in these moments, like this is you reconnecting with you. And I really strongly believe that the way through the void, the way through this liminal space is intimacy, and it's intimacy with yourself. Another piece I want to bring forward here is when we're talking about working with the energies and being able to navigate this potential void space, right? Is the shadow frequencies of these gates that we're talking about, are these gene keys that we're talking about. And I think so often the void activates these shadow frequencies because It's just what kind of comes to the surface when we're in that uncertain place, and our emotions are often heightened, and we end up just kind of operating in these shadow frequencies. And I want to say that there's nothing wrong with that. And it happens sometimes, because sometimes the wisdom that's required comes from us being in the shadows, right? That it's required sometimes. But the thing I want you to keep in mind is it's not somewhere we want to stay, because so often we can start to spiral and kind of lose sense of direction. And so it's just something we want to be able to have an awareness about and a cognizance about, and know how to navigate when we are in that space. And not that it's like, oh, let me know that I'm in it so I can get out. It's not about that, like being in it just so I can get out, but it's how can I navigate it with a little bit more ease, and from a place of like being self-resourced and from a place of empowerment, rather than ending up kind of in this victimhood, which ironically is a shadow of one of these, and allowing yourself to kind of spiral and get into the depths of that. So for the shadows that show up, for gate 55, I've mentioned these, so I don't want to revisit. The gate 55 shadow is victimhood. So this one is so easy to get into. And I think that as we're moving into this collective shift in 2027, this one is going to show up so often for the collective. This is such an easy place to be for people. It's such an easy place. So I think you are really going to witness people who don't have the tools that we're talking about now, that don't have the self, that are not self-resourced like you are, and don't have these tools and resources, all these things we're talking about. The victimhood, I think, is going to be first and foremost. Like, this is going to show up big time for people. And the gift of that same gene key is freedom. And so I mentioned before, if we're not feeling that freedom of energy, time, location, whatever that freedom is, then it's victimhood to our circumstances. So we're not feeling that connection, that abundance, all of those things. Victimhood is where we end up. The shadow of gate 34 is force. So remember, this was the one where I talked about majesty and strength. So rather than being in a place where I can feel my own power, I can lead from my own power, I can lead from strength. The opposite of that is forcing things. I'm forcing outcomes. I'm forcing things to happen on my time rather than trusting timing. Remember that part? So the force, but we're letting go of that, right? That's from the old paradigm. That's from the cross of planning. There's no need to force anything now, because we trust timing, we trust ourselves, we are self-assured, and the force is not required. The next one is gene key 20, and the shadow of this is superficiality. So remember, letting go of superficial relationships, superficial ways of operating. The gift of this, the moving out of this, would be presence. Can I be present? When you are present, that's where the depth comes from, is being really, truly present in the now and letting go of like superficial ways of operating. And then the last one, gene key 59, the shadow is dishonesty. And the gift of this is intimacy. The shadow is dishonesty. And again, this is really what we're letting go of from the cross of planning. That's what's been coming to the surface, is we're seeing dishonest ways of operating. We're seeing the dishonesty in a lot of these structures and systems that have been created. And when we move out of the dishonesty, we move into authenticity, which is what leads to intimacy, right? And intimacy is, I went through all that before. So I just wanted to bring those forward to you one more time, because I think the void so often is where shadows start to loosen their grip. And if we allow it to, the shadows show up, but from there, we can allow them to loosen their grip. And that is where the gifts can start to emerge. If we can be comfortable in the void, if we can be comfortable feeling and experiencing those shadows, then the gifts can emerge. The wisdom from the void, it begins to emerge. And that's when clarity arrives. And this is the crucial part here about clarity. I want you to have very clear expectations, because this isn't so often, because the void can be really uncomfortable. We get into this space where it's, let me just do all the right things so that I can get out of here quickly. It's just, what can I do to get out? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? I know I've asked myself that so many times, and I've often been working with mentors at the time. I feel like I'm in the void, and it's what I ask, like, what do I do? What do I do? It's not about doing. And by you doing more or doing period doesn't mean it's going to happen any faster. Like, it's not like it's speeding up the process. Clarity arrives slowly. Typically clarity arrives quietly. It happens in little glimpses. It's like slowly, it's like when you're opening the blinds, it's like slowly the light starts to come through. It's typically a slow process. Now, you might have moments where it's like, bam, hits you on top of the head and you have this like moment. You might have those. But for the most part, those are few and far between. And it's not like you get the whole picture, like your mind opens up and you have visions of it doesn't typically happen like that. It arrives slowly, it arrives quietly, because also your nervous system has to be prepared for this. And I really feel like our soul knows this, and our soul knows that sometimes too much too fast can be overwhelming to the body and to the nervous system. And so there is a process that I really believe is divinely guided to give us that slow, just kind of glimpses, like one little glimpse at a time. And it's going to arrive through the body. Typically it's going to arrive after rest or after a quiet space that you've taken. It's not arriving through effort. It's not arriving through doing. This is why the rest and the slowness is so crucial for this, and why so many of these like hustling and doing and pushing, all of these things are going to fade away, because people are going to begin to recognize that that's not helping. It's not bringing the clarity. It's not giving you what you need. It's not bringing you the fulfillment, the joy, all these things we're looking for. It's through that slowness, the quieting the mind and the body, quieting the noise. And a lot of times too, the clarity is going to arrive after grieving the old self, after grieving what you're letting go of. And I had an episode a while back, one of the Magnetic Minutes of Hope, that talked about this grieving process that's required. I say required. I really feel like it is for growth. It's just part of it. And I say required, and I don't mean like you have to, I don't want it to make like you have to suffer in order to get to, I'm not making it like that. The requirement for me is more about the letting go, right? There's a letting go and there's a grieving of the letting go. Oftentimes it can feel almost like a closure for some people, like kind of, I'm going to close this chapter so I can open the next one for myself, that kind of thing. So there is often this grieving process, and a grieving of the person I used to be that got me here, a grieving of the way I did things that kept me safe for the time being, right? A lot of times that has to happen before the clarity can arrive. It's a process. All of this is a process. All of that to say that all of this is a process. So give yourself space and grace and curiosity. Resist the urge to force things to happen and to force the clarity, because it's not going to happen. First of all, it's going to lead to a lot of frustration. But just give yourself the space and the grace. Be curious what comes up. I have navigated this space so many times, and honestly, I feel like since 2020, I've mentioned 2020 a couple times here. I feel like this has been kind of a recurring theme over the past like 5-6 years, is kind of being in and out of the void, where I get these moments. And when I say moments, it could be like months at a time of clarity. And then it kind of, I feel this like retreat back to like, oh, but now there's these other things coming up, and it's like back into the void of kind of, okay, what's the next piece? And then it kind of opens up like, okay, now I know. And there's like months of where, okay, now I know. And then it kind of, so it's been this, for me, this ebb and flow over the past 5-6 years. And I really feel like 2020 is what initiated me into this portal. I don't know. I'm sure that rings true for a lot of you too. Each time, I also feel like each time it happens, there's another nugget of wisdom that's available that is required to get to that next breadcrumb. And each time it's happened, I've recognized like, okay, I don't know what's next. And for the first handful of times, that was the frustration, because for me, being the type A, perfectionist, rule follower, good girl, like all those things that I was for so long, not having the answers and the clarity, and also like the control part, like the control freak part of me, I needed to know the answer. And it is so much harder navigating, going through the void, through that liminal space, that in-between space, when you are trying to force things to happen, and when you're not just surrendering to the void and surrendering to the in-between and surrendering to whatever it is that you're being asked to learn in the process. And I know that there was so many more emotional breakdowns, which not necessarily a bad thing, but I just know that it didn't have to be as hard as it was for me so many of those times, because I was resisting. I couldn't just sit and be with it. I needed answers. I needed clarity. I needed it to know now. There was so much pressure I was putting on myself, and it was affecting me on a physical level. Like there were physical things happening in my body in this time too. So it wasn't until that surrender piece, I really was able to lean into that. When I let the old identity kind of fall away, that's when the clarity comes. And I want to say this too. I mentioned this before. It wasn't like the skies opened up and then it was angels singing, giving me the answers and I had all the clarity. It's just like one little glimpse. A lot of times it was just one little glimpse of clarity. Sometimes the clarity, all it was for the clarity piece for me was keep trusting. It wasn't like I got an answer, do this next. It wasn't like that. It was just a clear piece, a moment of clarity where I felt in my body, just keep trusting the process. Keep trusting the process. Stay on the path. Keep trusting the process. And that's what you're being asked to do too. Every time I was able to lean into that, on the other side of that held more truth and clarity than anything I could have tried to force. So I want that to be a piece of encouragement for you. If you're navigating this space, you're feeling confused, you're not clear, you feel lost, maybe you feel hopeless, maybe there's melancholy or depression or anxiety, like all of these things. I want to normalize all of these things. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling any of those types of way. And if you feel like you're being asked to like burn it down and start over and that's scary, then that's okay too. Being in this in-between space, it doesn't always mean you're having to burn something down to build something new. Sometimes it's just kind of the refinement process. Right? Now, sometimes, maybe you're being asked to burn it down and start something new, but that clarity also will come with time. So can you be with the discomfort of not knowing? Can you be with the discomfort of not having the answers, not having clear direction, not having all the next steps? That's what you're being asked to be with here. And all of those human design anchors I gave you earlier, that's how you get through it. Trusting your energy, trusting your design. When you know how to work with that's how we navigate these challenging, these tricky parts of life. That's where human design is such a beautiful tool for us because we can understand our energy. We can understand how to work with our energy so that it makes it, I'm not saying it's going to make it this easy breezy, flowy process, but it is a lot easier to do when we lean into those parts of us and we know how to work with them rather than working against them. So if you're feeling this, if you're in this space, I just want you to know that you might feel like you're lost and alone, kind of hanging out in the ethers, but really it's like this period of reorganization. You're being reorganized in a different way of living and leading and being. That's what you're being invited into. And this is the energy of the riding across of the sleeping phoenix. This is the phoenix energy, right? This is how the woman stepping into this new paradigm leads, being emotionally present, being deeply embodied, leading from an energetically clean place. Like that's how we lead. And that's what you're being invited into to navigate this in-between space, this space where we are, we're all in this in-between space if you think about it, because we're kind of in between what we're shedding and stepping into this new paradigm in 2027. But I just know that when you are a soul-led, soul-guided woman, we feel just so much deeper because we're so much more in tune with the energies of the world, the collective, all of that. So we just feel it on a different level. So in the last episode of this series, I'm going to talk about how to support your nervous system, your energy, and your body through this shift. The last thing we want for us, with those of us who have this soul-led mission, is for us to just collapse during this process of becoming. That's the last thing we want. And so I want you to have the resources and the tools to be able to support yourself through the process that we're talking about, when we're shedding things and stepping into new ways of being. Now, that being said, if you have recognized yourself and anything that I've talked about in this episode or the last, you see yourself here, maybe you see these archetypes that you've been living as, the overfunctioning, the emotional containment, the good girl archetype, the burnout, you're recognizing these things in yourself. There's a reason that you're hearing this now, and there's a reason that this is landing now. And this is an invitation for you into legacy. I mentioned this in the last episode, this 12-week group container that I've created. It's really an initiation is what it is. And it's an initiation into a new way of leading and creating and living. And it's one that's rooted in emotional sovereignty and sacral truth and embodied authority, like really living from this place of embodied truth and leading with desire. And in this container, we're going to work with those 4 core energies of the sleeping phoenix. Like, this is really all about taking what we're stepping into in this new incarnation cross and using it as lived experience inside your body and your life. It's self-sourced power, it's presence-led leadership, it's emotional intelligence and sovereignty, and this clean, honest intimacy with yourself, which eventually in turn will turn to others. It's leading with those energies and understanding how that shows up in your body and how you use your own human design to work with those. So this work supports you in releasing old identities that were built for survival and responsibility and structure, right? The things we're leaving behind, while you're stabilizing in a new internal operating system that allows your energy, your creativity, your life force, your leadership to all move without forcing or pushing or like forcing things to happen. So legacy is for the woman who knows that she can no longer build her business, her relationships, or her life from self-abandonment. We're no longer available for that. It's no longer how we do things. It's for the woman who's ready to embody a different frequency before it's fully normalized, before the collective steps into this new way of living and doing and being. And so if you know that you're being called to lead differently, this is the space I'm creating that was designed to support you in that transition. This is bringing all the pieces, the magic of the work that I do. We're looking at the physical body. We're looking at the emotional, energetic body. We're looking at your human design. There's so many pieces in here that we're bringing together. I am going to take you through some of the most amazing, incredible hypnoses and shamanic journeys that are going to help bring you into this level of embodiment and self-leadership. Like, this is nothing I've ever done before, like nothing I've ever created before. Like, this is something totally new. And it is to support you in building your legacy as the woman who knows that she's here for something big, and you know that you're here to leave a legacy. That's who this is for, which is why it's called Legacy. So if you will go in the show notes and check it out, I have the link there so you can learn more and see what else it includes. There's so many things we're going to do inside these 3 months together. This, as I said, I'm inviting you into this initiation. Like, yes, this is a 12-week container, but initiation is the word that keeps coming up for me because it is initiating you into this new way of living and being and creating. And that is what creates legacy. That's what creates a woman who leaves the world differently than how she found it. And that's what legacy is all about. That's what leaving a legacy is all about. So head to the show notes and you can choose your options there. I have a pay in full option. I have payment plans. I have options to upgrade if you want to add on some more things to support you in your journey. And I will be back for the next solo episode for part 3 of this series, where we're talking all about how to prepare your body, your energy, and your nervous system for this shift. So having these tools where you can regulate and embody and feel safe and trust yourself through all the in-between spots and all these changes that we're going to have here, stepping into this new paradigm. So I will see you in the next episode.